So now based on the arrangement of these plies in the substructure, right. So we have two common types of pneumatic tires that we would have encountered. The first one is what is called as a diagonal or cross or bias ply tires. So what are these? Okay. And the second class based on the arrangement of the plies is what is called as a radial tire, right. So what is the what are the characteristics of both and what are the differences? So let us look at them. So let us first look at the diagonal ply. So what is a diagonal ply tire? Now this is a simple schematic which shows the cross section of this diagonal ply tire. So we can observe that these are the ends. Okay. So we have essentially cut a pneumatic tire, right. Basically we have taken a chunk of the tire, right, and these ends are the beads or constitute the bead assembly. Okay. We are not shown a lot of detail here, but the plies are nothing but, as we learned, they are essentially layers of fabric and cords which run from one end to the other, right, along the profile of the tire. So in a diagonal or cross or bias ply tire, we can see that all these plies are running in a crisscross fashion, right, layers of plies. Now one layer of ply like is having cords which are at this angle, and you can see that another layer of plies which are wound near it are having another direction, the cords oriented in another direction. Okay. So for this reason they are called as diagonal or cross or bias ply tires. Okay. And typically if you look at the angle made by the these cords with the axis of this in this direction, it is typically around 20 to 40 degrees, like that is a typical range what is called as a bias angle. Okay. So that is essentially a diagonal or bias ply tire. Okay. So the plies are run crisscrossed diagonally from one bead to another. Okay. The cords or the fibers of the plies have a bias angle of around 20 degrees to 40 degrees with the central plane. Of the tire. Okay. And of course these plies are wrapped around the bead core, right, at the bottom. Okay. So and that is how these plies run. Okay. So today if you look at most automobiles, the design which is very popular and which is commonly used is what is called as a radial tire, right, or the term radial tire is essentially commonly used to denote a radial ply tire. Okay. So what is a radial ply? Okay. So as the name indicates, in this design or in this construction, the plies run, or the cords or fibers of the plies run radially. Okay. So you can see that each cord, they are not now crisscrossed to each other, but then they run from one bead to another along the radius, okay, of the tire. Okay. So that is why this is what is called as a radial ply tire. And typically in radial tires what we have are these belts which are present below the tread to provide stiffness, particularly stiffness along the circumferential direction, because the cords or fibers in the radial tire go along the radial direction, right. So, here if you want to go along the circumference and then like have some stiffness along that direction, we provide these what to say belts which are typically having the steel fibers. Okay. So, these are commonly called as what are called as steel radial tires. Okay. So, if you encounter the term steel radial tires, they are nothing but radial tires with these steel belts for additional support. Okay. So, that is the radial ply tire. So, the cords or the fibers on the plies run radially across the tire from one bead to another. Okay, so that is why it is called as a radial ply, and a belt of cords typically made of steel, okay, is situated below the tread for providing the necessary stiffness, particularly along the circumferential direction. Okay. So, that is why when steel is used as the material for these belts, these are what are called as steel radial tires. So, what are the advantages of these radial tires over bias ply? Because today like radial tires are the preferred choice, right, have become the preferred choice. So, what are the advantages that they give? So, typically they result in higher mileage, that means better life, right, and then like they have higher load capacity at lower tire weight. So, that is an attractive feature because we want to decrease the mass of the tire also, right. So, we have higher load capacity, load carrying capacity at lower tire weight. So, and radial tires have a lower rolling resistance, and then like they also give better wet braking behavior. Okay. So, they have flexible side walls which imply a softer ride, better ride. Okay. And so, these advantages have made them quite popular, okay, over bias ply tires, okay, over the as a preferred choice, like for most automotive applications. Okay. So, these are the bias and radial ply tires. So, there is another parameter which is very important for characterizing a tire, which is what is called as a tire aspect ratio. So, what is this tire aspect ratio? The tire aspect ratio is the ratio of the height of the tires cross section to its width. Okay. So, that is what is called as the tire aspect ratio. So, you look at the height of the tire. So, if we go back to the schematic, so broadly like the height of the tire will be this, right. So, the width of the tire will be this. So, the aspect ratio will be the ratio of the height of the tire to the width of the tire. Okay. So, that is what is the aspect ratio. So, if we have a higher aspect ratio, okay, this implies narrower tires, right, because if the aspect ratio is higher, that means that the height divided by width is large, right. So, that we are going to have smaller width resulting in narrower tires and larger sidewall height. So, the sidewalls are going to be much larger in size relatively, we are talking relatively, right. So, we are going to have larger sidewall height. Okay. So, typically it has been found that this helps in better ride comfort, but compromises on handling. Okay. So, that is the limitation with a higher aspect ratio. Okay. Conversely, if we have a lower aspect ratio, that implies that we have wider tires, okay. Relatively the tire width is going to be high, and of course the tire height is going to be smaller. So, we are going to have shorter sidewall, okay, relatively. So, what will this result in? This results in better cornering performance, we get better grip, so better cornering performance. Okay, and can result in a larger wheel rim, okay, that can accommodate a larger brake, because please note that the brake assembly is also included in the inside the wheel assembly. So, if the sidewall height is small, right, and essentially we have a fixed outer radius, then the rim radius will be higher, right. So, then we will have more space to accommodate a larger brake, and that leads to higher braking capacity, right. So, that is an advantage with having this one. However, with lower aspect ratio there is a trade off in ride comfort, okay. Ride comfort becomes poor, and obviously vibrations are passed on to the vehicle body, okay. That is the trade off, okay, with having a lower aspect ratio. So, one needs to balance the aspect ratio, as per the requirements, like the conditions under which the vehicle is operated. So, based on this we typically specify tires in a certain way, okay. So, if you look at a pneumatic tire, like you will see that its specifications is marked on its external surface. So, let us see what those typical specifications are and how to interpret them, right, based on what we have discussed. So, typically the specifications indicated on a tire are, first thing is the tire width in mm, the aspect ratio in percentage, and then we have information on whether it is radial or diagonal ply, okay. Then we have a rim diameter in inches, then we have load index. So, what is this load index? This indicates the maximum load carrying capacity of the tire. okay. So, that is what is called as the load index of the tire. Then we have what is called as the speed index, speed symbol. Speed symbol essentially indicates the maximum speed up to which the tire can be used safely, of course. Right. So, that is those are typical information that one could gather, like by looking at the tire specification indicated on a typical pneumatic tire. So, let us take an example and then identify, okay. So, let us say like in some tire, so we have the marking as let us say 175/65 and then R. I am just giving space so that I can write the explanation, typically it is bunched together, okay. Let us say 82 and then H, okay. So, let us say these are the markings which are formed, okay. So, what do they mean? So, what happens is that this 175 number is indicator of the tire width. So, this indicates that this tire has a width of 175 mm. So, 65 means its aspect ratio is 65%, okay. R indicates it is a radial tire, okay. So, typically for bias ply or diagonal, people use a hyphen, right, a dash to essentially indicate that it is a bias ply design. Like in some cases, like one also uses the what to say, uses marking B or D, okay, to essentially indicate a bias ply or diagonal tire, okay. So, this 14 indicates a rim diameter of 14 inches, 82 indicates a load index. So, this helps us in figuring out that of course, there is a standard table which tells us what will be the corresponding maximum supported load in kilograms as a function of the inflation pressure, okay. So, one could essentially figure it out from this load index, and this is the speed symbol. So, H is a character which essentially is represented of speed symbol as an example, right. So, in this case the character H is typically used to specify a maximum allowable speed of up to 210 kilometers per hour, okay. That is what this H corresponds to. So, once again we have a rating, right, in terms of some indicators, right. So, these are typical information which we will get. So, there are other markings which are found in addition to this. So, to indicate the vehicle type and the usage type, like of course, there are additional markings which can be observed. The character P essentially indicates a passenger tire, like the character P is put ahead, and then LT indicates a light truck, okay, and C indicates a commercial vehicle, and T indicates a temporary usage. So, for example, like we use a spare tire under emergency, those will be marked with the symbol T, okay. So, these are supposed to be used only under emergency and they need to be replaced with the service tire, like as soon as the repairs are carried out, okay. So, those are some additional markings that we will calculate. So, now if we want from this specification, if we want to calculate the tire radius, how would we do this? So, from the specification, please note that the tire width is 175 mm, right. So, 175 mm times 0.65 will be the tire height, right, from the bead to the tread. So, then to get a first get approximate value, right, then we have the rim diameter as 14 inches. So, what will be the rim radius in mm? It will be 14 inches times 25.4 mm and then divided by 2, right, that will give the rim radius. So, if you want to get a nominal tire radius from the tire specification, you can get this. Okay, so I think if you do the calculations correctly, I hope I am correct. In this case, we get around like 291.55 mm. Okay, so that is what we will have, right. Okay. So, this is a very brief introduction to tires. Of course, tires are very important as far as the transmission of forces is concerned between the road and the vehicle, and the field of tire mechanics is a huge area which essentially deals with this phenomenon, right. How are the forces and torques transmitted between the vehicle and the road. Okay. So, the objective of this lecture is to essentially provide a broad overview of tire, what are the different components and some information related to the pneumatic tire. Okay. So, I will stop here. Thank you.